All right. I am delighted to be joined once again by Dr. Amandha Vollmer. And today we are here to talk about urine therapy. Now, this is a practice that I've recently begun. I'm only 6 months in, but over the course of the 6 months, I've been blown away with all the things that have come through for me. My fiance also is at the 6 month mark too. So we have been comparing notes and looking at this glorious practice as probably one of the most hidden gems that we all have, that we produce, that can be probably one of the best antidotes. And maybe one of the only things we might even need if you were looking at it from that perspective. So I have Amanda here today. She is currently writing a book about this practice. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, her experience with urine therapy, and anything else that wants to come through and flow. So welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here. And how's your day going?
Hey, Michelle. Thanks for having me. It's going how it's going to go, and but better and better each day. Just getting prepared for this next big whopper of a Mercury retrograde coming up in about a week's time. So I am already revisiting the projects I know I need to focus on from the past, and so that's usually what comes up during this time. Things that we need to finish and complete and tidy up. So I'm gearing up for that, and yeah, things are going well.
That's awesome and great. I'm glad to hear it. And also, if I remember correctly, just through following you over the years, you're a Leo, correct?
Yeah, Leo sun, Pisces moon, Taurus rising, and I've got I've got a lot of interesting aspects. Hence why I almost have no filter. But yeah, it helps me with the presentation, where I can I have a lot of Virgo as well, which is really the nerdy stuff, the research and the detail oriented stuff. And then I've got aspects of humor, which is a lot of the Pisces energy. So I can deliver it a little bit humorous at times. Sometimes you need to give truth with a little humor to let the medicine go down.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so, well, happy birthday month, I'll say to that. And also, too, if there's anyone out there listening who may not be familiar with you, just please introduce yourself and let them know where they can find you. And if there's anything you want to get this interview started off with, we could even go into how and why how you found urine therapy and why you feel it's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've been a holistic practitioner for nearly 20 years, and I'm trained in naturopathic medicine. My Bachelor of Science is agricultural biotechnology because I was going to go and be a veterinarian because I really cared about plants and animals, and people kind of sucked. So I wasn't going to do that kind of medicine. But then I realized that I have a lot of compassion for people, and this is a skill set that I've built over my life. So I started to move into, the naturopathic world and holistic modalities. And I was a collector of varying modalities also. I was just a sponge for learning when I was a child. I always wanted to read everything I could get my hands on. I always had 10 books going at any given time. And I just kept learning and learning what I could. And, homeopathy was a big love. I studied in India. I really love traditional Chinese medicine. I've pulled a lot of disciplines into what I do, which is why I call myself an eclectic practitioner, pooling from all these other disciplines, and what works is what works. So that's what I do and have been doing for a long time. And now I've created, instead of doing one-on-one as I was doing, which kind of got me burnt out, I realized that the goal of this medicine is to empower the individual to heal themselves rather than just going to practitioners and being told what to do. So when I went into this new space, during the pandemic, when a lot of things started to change, I closed my public store. I had a store, which is now just my operations, but I closed to the public. I went everything to a private membership association. All my online stores are PMAs. And I created what's called Yummy.Doctor, which is a private community where I have courses and classes. I do a live Q&A every Thursday nights, and we help each other, and I'm training and helping people to find themselves so that they know and understand the body enough to apply a lot of these remedies, and to avoid hospitals and avoid drugs and avoid suppressing their symptoms and look at themselves and go into the work and transform themselves so they can be empowered. And then they will tell two friends and they will tell two friends and this kind of thing. I found out about DMSO right a couple years before the pandemic, and I started writing a book about it called Healing with DMSO. It's a bestseller, which was really exciting. And I've just actually penned a chapter in a new book called The Inside Effects, How the Body Heals Itself. So that's also become a bestseller almost overnight, which is really cool. And then the third book, like you mentioned, is going to be on Shivambu. And we're going to put some humor in that too. I have a writing partner. His name's Mike Cardamone. And we're doing a cool thing where we're just back and forth our chapters. So it's a lot. It's a different way of writing, and I like it. It's fun and interactive. And then, continue on with my podcast I started on Substack, which also is free to members of Yummy.Doctor as well. And just, keeping on with the education point and trying to avoid all the censorship, which is getting kind of difficult. But we do what we do. This is why we have private communities, so we don't get censored there. So there you go.
Yeah, right on. Beautiful intro. Yeah, your work is just so brilliant. And I have said this the first time I interviewed you, but not to be a fangirl. It's just somebody I look up to you in so many ways, especially too as a fellow, just a woman business owner as well. And the times where I've felt like, what am I doing? Or I need to maybe take a break, or I need to reevaluate things. You are one of the women that come to my mind, and I become inspired because, I know men do it too, and I'm inspired by men as well, but there's something very comforting about that. So I wanted to make sure to tell you that, despite what you may feel sometimes, or the rundown, or that comes with this work, it's like you are really inspiring a lot of people, and I'm one of them. So thank you for that. And looking forward to this, because one of the things too that I and my fiance also really appreciate about your work is how you present options to people. And when we saw you speak at Flattoberfest last year, that was like our biggest takeaway, was you were just like, they've told you that there's only one way, but there are so many ways. And that's one of the things I love about what you do. And also just bringing urine therapy into the fold. It's like, this is an option that many people either don't want to look at, or they don't even know that it's an option. So when in your life did this come up? And like, when was it that you applied it and then started seeing results for yourself?
Yeah, thank you for that. I was a late teenager. I was in my late teens, and I had scabies. I went to a hippie house party and slept on the couch and got these mites, and they would not go away. I used the traditional medicines and poisons, even though it says right on there, this is a reproductive poison. Do not have babies for a while, kind of thing. It wasn't working. And so I went online, started to research, figure out what my options were. And I came across an Indian document about Shivambu and using urine for healing. And I've always been very open-minded, so I didn't judge it. I didn't, plus when you're desperate, when you're in pain, when you're suffering, it makes you open-minded, or it should make you open-minded, right? Where you're like, let me think outside the box here. Maybe there's another way to end this suffering. And so immediately, as soon as I felt my intuition on that, I ran to the bathroom. I urinated right away. I got into the shower and I rubbed it into the areas of my body. And then the urine went into the bathtub with the water flowing. And I sat in that bath for about an hour. And when I came out, I felt so much better. I didn't do anything else. I didn't need to do anything else. And by the next morning, everything was crusting over. And by the second day, it was pretty much healed. And I went, wow, okay, what? That's amazing. I mean, this was months of me like struggling and trying to get this under control. So to have it cure basically, or heal itself within 2 days, was miraculous to me. But, the mind will make excuses, and I don't remember my mind back then per se, but I sort of forgot about it, and moved on with my life, as a healed person would do usually. And then later on, I found when I moved out of the city and I was pregnant, I started to revisit it again. um, because of my teaching, because of what I was doing, because I started to see clients again at that point. I was doing research again deeper and this sort of thing. And of course, the baby, the fetus is bathing, in urine. And there's more and more urine as the fetus grows, because they start to produce their own urine, and then they're bathing in like your urine and their urine. And it's just one big happy urine party in there. And I was learning about things like how it can treat all kinds of, aging, and that it can be, ingested and this kind of stuff. So what I started to do was learn how to age my urine at that point. So once I had started my store I bought the new property in 2012. So by 2012, 2013, I started to save urine, age it, use it for skincare, just use it if I wasn't feeling the best. It wasn't that I was doing it every single day at that point. I was just sort of getting back into it. Then I met someone who told me that they used urine to heal breast cancer. And it was pretty much the only thing that she had done. She did John Armstrong's treatise on urine process, which is imbibing, like looping the urine during the day, taking in extra water as well. She wasn't fully fasting. She still was eating a little bit, which I do advise for women. And then she was doing urine rubbing. So she was rubbing quite a bit of urine into her skin, over the area of the breast and over the lymph areas, for almost an hour a day until everything was dry. And she said she had really powerful experiences doing that. So it wasn't just that, the cancer went away. It was that all of the links in her body, all the connections, all the emotions, all the spiritual aspects started to come to light for her. She started to realize things about her childhood. She started to realize things about how she processes her emotions. She started to, realize a lot of things. And for me, it was really a new reminder of this power. Instead of just dabbling, I started really then getting into it more at that point. And so I have some really old cognac urine that's really powerful. And I met a woman, her name's Fiona Gardner. She has an account on Instagram called Messages in Urine, and she shows the beautiful crystals that come out of the urine, and from people who do micturate. They do drink their own micturation, and and when you do that, it's like you raise the light in your body, and it can be evidenced in the crystallization of the urine that she does not find in those who do not imbibe their own urine. And so we've had a couple of chats, and I'm going to send her some of my really old vintage urine, and she's going to take some pictures, see some pictures of that under the microscope, and be interesting to see what it looks like. And if it looks really cool, we're going to put it on the book cover, or at least have it in the book. So yeah, I just started practicing more and more at that point, drinking it every day and using it for skincare every day. And now I'm doing it like on and off sort of thing. I just go into, my trust of it and when I need it and what I need it for now, because you do become very intuitive with your own waters. And so I really trust that now when I need it, when it's time to take a break, when I use it topically, when I don't, that kind of thing. So that's how it all began, though.
Man, that's a beautiful journey. That's so cool to know how young you were when you discovered it. That's amazing. As I've said, once we started practicing this, I kind of put my intentions out that I really wanted to talk to you about this subject, because I've listened to you speak on it before, but I'm like, man, I'd love to just have a one-on-one with her and speak about this, to find out these little backstories about it, your history with it, because that crystallization thing, and that's actually one of the slides that I prepared, but without even the slide. The crystallization thing and the being of the self and imbibing of the self and looping yourself back into yourself has been like one of the most profound things for me, because one of the connections I've been able to make is that exact thing you said about the emotions. There's that physical healing, but then the emotions that come through, and then it manifests in the 3D. And then you're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what this ailment is from. And that's been pretty profound. And to me, it's just like a testament to the fact that our bodies are meant to heal and we know exactly what to do. And so does Mother Nature. And there's like this trust thing. And the intuitive medicine is one of the greatest things that I've realized about the Shivambu as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is enlightenment material here. And it is actually truly the water of life. And there are documents that talk about how valuable it is for spiritual progress to drink one's own urine. And, it's literally holy water. I mean, that's the meaning of Shivambu. It's Shiva, I think it's Shiva, right? So Shiva is holy, or is considered holy, and Ambu is water. So it's literally your own holy water that you're drinking, which is sacred. It's sacred to you, and it will clean up your pineal as well. It's like an adaptogen. It will upregulate or downregulate as required. So there's an intelligence there to it, and it will unblock a lot of things as well. So it's not just about the nutrition in it or the structured water, which is part of it, of course, but there's more there to it. I mean, some say in some of the old ancient Indian texts, like the Dhamma, it says that if you ingest your own urine consistently and continually for a certain amount of years, I can't remember the amount of years, you will become immortal. Literally, you will never die. And I haven't tested that one out yet, but like it's ancient. This is like, we're talking thousands of years here, and a lot of information has been written in these ancient texts about imbibing of one's own waters and how important it is for your enlightenment, not simply just health. Because I think back then we didn't really have health problems. I think this is a modern problem, and we're talking about treat cancer and treat chronic disease and etc. But how they were using it back then was for spiritual enlightenment aspects and purposes. And I'd love us to get to that point, really.
Yeah, same. And I think too, it's like speaking on the history of it, I have this deep feeling that all of our ancestors, regardless of what culture we're from, they were all doing this. So it was part of their practice. They understood. I'm assuming, and I feel quite sure that they understood the value of something like our own Shivambu, and they applied it. They used it around the house. They used it as blessings. They used it for medicine. They used it for nutrition, whatever it was, for an earache, for, a sore throat. There's so many, numerous uses. And to me, that's one of the cool things too, because you hear a lot about, connecting to your ancestors and doing that, which is very important. And it's one of my favorite practices to do. But I feel like when we do something like this, when we are able to kind of train our minds to be deprogrammed from what we've learned, it's like that in and of itself is getting us closer to the earth. It's getting us closer to our ancestors. And that to me is like one of the most healing things you can actually really do. So that's something that I find really special about it too. And like really taking the time when you are imbibing to just like be in that moment and trying to really focus in on that, and having intention is probably one of the best things you can also do.
Yeah, it would be good to, it is divine nectar, and you can abolish all kinds of aging issues and other ailments and diseases. But what you can do is when you first ingest your urine, then after that, go right into your meditation practice, and it will enhance your meditation practice for people who are doing that. And there, in the is it the Damar Sutra, I believe? It's like a 5,000-year-old document, or Dhamma Tantra.
Yes,
It talks about the Tantra. So it talks about how there are all these different rules, of perfection of how to use urine for enlightenment purposes. Like what vessels to use it in, how to, wash your face with it when you wake up, and then you should drink it cheerfully. And to use like after birth, for example, if you actually follow some of the methods to purification, within basically a one whole moon cycle, your body is completely cleansed, no matter what's going
Mm.
on. Like, you've completely energized your senses after about, I think, 2 months. So first month is just like full cleanse. Second month is your sixth senses, your extra senses start to come alive again. And I think their 3 months is like any other depression or anything, lingering like that emotionally will go. And then your eyesight can heal within about 5 months. And then after 6 months, your intelligence goes up. After 8 months, your body is like golden. You
Yeah.
have this luster, and I mean, this stuff is healing things like leprosy, tuberculosis. I mean, major miasms after 6 months of use, sometimes even earlier, as per the treatise on urine discusses. And then they say, like, later you just become more bright. So every month that's added, you're becoming more pure. And then after a whole year, you have like this solar aspect that's happening to your body, and then you're conquering different elements and stuff. Like, you can conquer the earth element after 1 year, and after 3 years you're like mastering the luster of the sun and shit. It's like, what the heck? But I think it takes 5 years to master the ego, so we it takes a while of consistent use for that one.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought all this up, because I actually have when I read it about a month or so ago, the Dhamma Tantra, I read it from the Golden Fountain, because he has it in that book. And when I read that, I was just like, holy shit, oh my God. And I like came inside and I'm like, babe, you got to hear this. Like, we have to talk kind of thing. Like, just hear me, like, listen to some of these verses, because it was like a really, like, I don't know, more of an aha moment for us, even on a symbolic level, as we were talking about backstage. Like, symbolically, it is just like such a fruitful subject, and it's really freaking cool. And when you can see that and then see the physical side and blend them together, and then you just cannot deny this stuff, especially when there is all these ancient texts to kind of back it up. So one of the things I want to do is pull up this alchemical symbol for urine, because now my fiance Mario of Symbolic Studies, he's a symbols guy, so he's got a huge symbolism library, and he was showing me one of the alchemical symbol books that he has, and he goes, babe, there's a urine symbol. And as soon as I saw it, I mean, to me, it made so much sense. All the things we're talking about, of like bringing you to your center. This is your center point. You are in the middle. And what I think of too is like, it's only up to you to heal, to make that decision. It's going to be up to you. You can do all the procedures, you can do all the things, you can whatever. But if you're not committed to that, or you aren't fully in, then, it might be a jagged road or whatever you want to call it. But this symbol to me is just like, it really just blasts that out, and reminding us that it is all within. And so with the urine, it just is like pretty incredible. But I wanted to bring this in. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I really wanted to just kind of like hear what you have to say about, or what it makes you think of when you see it.
Yeah, that's no, I haven't seen it before. At first I was like, oh, there's the pee hole. There's your pee hole. Cool. But you have like the four main elements, like you have the four corners. You have a containment there, a structure, like a stability. It's the masculine and the feminine. So the circle and the square, which is the circle and the square is like all of mathematics. It's like the all of the all. So it also looks kind of has like a flare on the, like a creativity flare. So it's not just like a hashtag. It's got these flares at the end. Like, it's gonna, if you kept growing, it would just keep expanding. You see, like, if you
That's
kept
a
those
great
lines,
point.
yeah, if you kept going to infinity, it would just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the energy of this. Like, you keep imbibing, you're going to get access to more and more and more. Right. Yeah, I really like it. at first I was like, oh, a hashtag, but I'm like, not really, not really. It's the circle and the square, and it shows you that all the four corners, and yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, it's a great one. I'm definitely past my like tattoo phase. That was like in my, you know what I mean? But I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, if I was still wanting to put ink into my body voluntarily, I could see like this symbol being something that I would be gravitating towards. But man, oh, I love that point of the expansion. That's a really, really great observation. But
Mhm.
to me too, I mean, anytime there's an alchemical symbol attached to anything, then you also have extra validation that this is pretty important.
Mhm. Yes.
Something worth looking at. So, yeah,
Mhm.
very excited to have your opinion on that. I'm kind of trying to remember. I think, oh yeah, I just wanted to give
Yeah.
credit to the Golden Fountain because great book. And I've just as I read it, I mean, I read it in like 2 days because I was just like, oh my God, this is wonderful. So I'm sure if people are interested, they can check that out. But one of the quotes from that, the reason I wanted to give credit to the book is urine is a crystalline like substance containing high amounts of structured water. And within like the quote unquote truther community, there is a lot of talk of structured water for good reason. So I find that this would be a really good entry point for people too, if they're skeptical of urine therapy or something like that, maybe like explaining to them the structured water. If they know the importance of it, if you're just structuring your water that you get, then you are structuring your own water every single day, have been since your inception and will until death. And so for me, it's just like one of those things that goes hand in hand.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, like, we can understand the fourth phase, right? The fourth phase of water and what that means electrically for us. And a lot of people think that there's just solid, liquid, and gas for what water can do, but it's a very unique structure, and it really will. We do know there's a fourth phase, and there's probably other phases as well where it's going into plasma-like phases, or it has a different relationship with electricity. And this is how our bodies actually operate based on structured water and opposing normal water. So you have, H3O2 plus H2O, on different, they have their own electrical boundaries. So you don't even need a membrane at that point. You have an electrical membrane going on inside what we're calling a cell, and that everything is really run like a battery. And the more structure you have in the mesh network of that fourth phase water, the easier that electrical information can travel through the body. And that's why this is also extra value added in, because we lose our structure. We lose like just electromagnetic fields alone that were, terrible EMFs that were given that are totally the wrong frequency. I mean, we can actually have healthy EMFs. We can have healthy cell phones, but they don't make healthy cell phones. They don't make healthy towers. They don't make even Bell, the Bell company, when they started to use the telephones, they used the wrong frequency. They're using frequencies to hurt, but we have frequencies that can heal. And I envision when we finally take this place over and get the nasties out, we will correct this. We will make this correction so we can use these technologies without harm. But as for right now, we have an agenda to actually break through our pineal and damage it so that we cannot overcome and wake up and achieve what we're meant to achieve. That's why this type of work, or using urine therapy, is even more important than ever before, because it can heal and clear a lot of our blockages that they're hell-bent on creating in us. I mean, they're giving us things like fluoride, glyphosate, crazy levels of electromagnetic frequencies, and aluminum through the chemtrails. And all of this is like a perfect storm in our body, and will block our pineal, which is our ability to see, our third eye, our extra senses. And this is how we're going to be able to overcome, the evil, but they're keeping us down. And so using your own urine and structuring your waters and cleansing yourself with, like I said, within 1 month, you're cleaned out. This is the way forward. This is the way for us to overcome so this is not just about healing this and healing that. We're talking about big stuff here with urine, right? Like we can overcome tyranny using urine, because people can unblock their sleepiness and heal and remove all of this, calcification from their glands, balance their hormones, which are cause of a lot of problems, a lot of anger, a lot of emotional issues, right? Can be healed this way, so we can communicate better, so that we can heal our relationships, so that we can seek truth and know when truth rings in a certain way, so we can resonate with it, so we can find our own proper gut sense, our intuition again. And I mean, we have the ability to see blind. I mean, there are children now and even adults now that are practicing a type of sight with a blindfold on. So reading with a blindfold, like, we can do this stuff. This isn't like something out of a movie. This is literally, we can do this. This is achievable, already been done, already being done. Like Edith Ubuntu Chan, for example, her child can read blindfolded. She has a whole school that teaches you how to do this, it's like a type of remote viewing, essentially, where you're using your higher senses to read. So you don't need your eyeballs. And this is incredible because it's been taken and run with for the blind. So now they don't even need Braille because they can see. The blind can literally see. And it's because of this third eye. It's because of exercising our extrasensory abilities. And urine can get you there as well and clean you up for that. So I think we're in really exciting times where we're remembering who we are, and we're waking up from this deep slumber, and we're really tired of the boot coming down on us. And if you look all around the world, there's like revolution after revolution after revolution happening. I mean, we've got Hungary right now. We have Venezuela right now. We have there's so many places are standing up. In Britain, I just saw a huge thing going on in Britain right now. Again, like, we've had enough. We've had enough, and we're saying no more, and we're loving ourselves, and we're healing ourselves. And to know and understand the power of our own holy water is a really important piece to what we're doing in our awakening.
Yeah, I agree. And, it seems to me that, and it might just be because I've begun the practice myself. So I'm seeing things differently, or it's the algorithm or whatever. But I do feel like there are more people talking about Shivambu. And that's just something I've observed just in our group of friends. We have a couple friends that since we started it, we told a couple of close friends, they were like, I think I want to try it too. Everything you guys are saying is making sense. They're seeing results on us. And then there it was. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. They were open-minded enough to just go for it. And so I'm not sure if I think it has something to do with what you're saying. This boot is being lifted and we are heading into a different age. And I almost feel like as much as we're going, whether it's age of Aquarius or whatever, and there's all this technology, to me, it feels like though we're returning to something older. Like it is actually an older tradition that we're heading towards, but it feels like it might be it's new because it's new to us because we haven't been there before. And so that's what kind of keeps coming through for me is that no, we're like returning to old traditions, which to me then validates this kind of revival or this new interest in something like Shivambu. And yeah, that's really incredible to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
I want to segue. Well, actually, before we segue into your work with your book, because I do want you to share whatever you feel like sharing or, whatever. Obviously, I don't want you to have any spoilers, but I know that I'm really excited when it comes out to read it. I want to talk to you about Shivambu and DMSO. Because I've had some really, really profound moments using DMSO and either my fresh urine and my age urine. And so I've just been I've been adding it to my nightly skin tonic that I make for myself, which is like a 40% dilution DMSO with witch hazel and rose water. And then I just added my aged urine because I'm like, well, why not? Why wouldn't I? So I started doing that. And then one of my detox symptoms about a month ago was I broke out in like a rash on both of my legs. And and it almost was like eczema. And I've never had anything like that before. I've never had eczema. And so I was like, wow, this is really interesting, like intensely itchy at times. I had to really do some mind, Jedi tricks to like not itch and things like that. But what I ended up doing was just, soaking poultices with aged urine and like wrapping myself and going to bed. And what it did was it expelled it more. And then it started healing very quickly. And then I put the DMSO dilution on, and then I would go to bed. And then within like 2 days, it was all gone. And one of the things I wanted to bring up before I hand it over to you is that what I noticed about the particular areas of the rash there were areas on my legs where I knew I had certain injuries, like from years ago. One in particular that was a pretty spicy injury on an emotional and a physical level. And it was like there was a spot right in that area. And I was like, this is that injury coming up. And as soon as I acknowledged that and I allowed it to be, all the emotions of that time came through and I was able to process it. I was able to talk about it more gently and more calmly than I ever have before. And so I wanted to talk to you about the DMSO stuff and then detox and what people might be able to expect if they do start to incorporate this in, because I think it's really important that people know, as you said, how important of a practice this is, and that it's not for the faint of heart when you really think about it.
Well, also that, you do want to start gently and slowly, and it would be good. I have a self-assessment course on yummy.doctor that would be a good, if people, because a lot of people say, oh, I don't know where to start, or, oh gosh, it's overwhelming and there's all this information and what do I do? And there's so many choices and people get overwhelmed. And I designed this self-assessment course and it's not very big. It's just, it helps you walk through your goals, what your needs are, what your desires are, what your health goals are, and just focus yourself a little bit. And then once you have your eye on the prize, then you can take, little baby steps toward it when you're using these types of therapies, so that you are preparing, you're already starting to change the diet. I mean, ultimately, when you do urine therapy, your diet you should clean it. It should be a simpler diet. You shouldn't be drinking coffee and having sugar and, all these simple carbs and all this, modern terrible GMO food and bioengineered foods. Like, you really should take the additives out, not do like have any kind of running table salt, like only natural salt. And that would be the first step if someone's not already there, to get really clean with the diet before starting the urine therapy, because it will be less triggering. It will not, like what you had was like a type of a healing crisis where the body's like, okay, we want to get rid of this. We're being, we're healing this, right? It's called return of old symptoms when you go through a healing like that, which is great. That's what you want to see. However, ultimately, it'd be nice if you didn't have the rash, in some ways, or just a mild one, so that the emotions came up. So you did what you needed to do there, right? Where you could see, oh yeah, that was my old injury. And oh, aha, like this, just enough. But it's different for different people. You probably needed to go through that for all the reasons that you did, so you can teach it and you can express it and whatever. Right? This is the wounded healer path too, right? I'm like, oh, why did I have to go through this crap? Oh, well, because I have now the wisdom and the knowledge to express it and explain it, and also the confidence to know that it's okay, that when these things happen that can freak us out, we can get through them. And then when someone else is going through it, I can go, okay, you're going to be fine. Here's what you do, right? But ultimately, in people, we want to avoid a lot of intensity of the healing crisis, because you want your organs to be ready to receive the waste, to receive the materials that's now being moved through that want to release and go. And so the drinking part, you don't just necessarily dive in. You just start with a few drops. You could begin to age the urine. And then I wouldn't even start aged urine until like at least a month of using urine therapy, ultimately, because it's when you begin the aged is when the exudates really start to come out like crazy style. And it can freak out some people too, right? Like all this exudates starting to come out of your eyes, or you're getting leaky stuff out of your ears, or you're getting all this stuff coming out of the skin, right? Or your bowels are moving, whatever. So that I find the aged is really quite an intensive part of it. I mean, there's millions and millions now of stem cells inside that aged urine. Now, there's stem cells in all urine, not a lot, but once you age it, you're getting into the millions of stem cells, and your body wants to rehabilitate organs. Like you're patching over bone and remodeling bone, and like stuff's really moving and shaking. And if your elimination organs are blocked up, then it can come out all the orifices, and it's not that pretty, and you might not be able to go to work that day or whatever's going on. So we just want to do it, with clarity and go through it. Now, if you're at end stage cancer, right? Like you're this kind of person where you've been chopped up by the doctor hacks and, put on the pain train, and you're really desperate, then just start doing John Armstrong's protocol where you're doing the looping. I would stay away from the age still at that point and do like full urine fasting and rubbing for 10 to 30 days until you're healed. And then once that happens, you can start to use the aged in little ways. And yeah, blending it with DMSO. If you use dimethyl sulfoxide with urine, you're going to get deeper penetration, because that's one of its offers, transdermally and also internally, getting through different organ systems, getting into the brain through the blood-brain barrier. These kinds of things are happening when you start to now use alchemy with DMSO and get into combination remedies. I think that's more when you're really confident with with using natural remedies, when you start to do that. And DMSO can definitely be a support through the detox process, through the cleansing process, through the rebuilding of tissues, through the sulfur addition that allows for cells to have cross linkages so they have good structure, these kinds of things. And to consider the nutrition, consider making sure you have enough minerals, you're taking things maybe like tissue salts, you're supporting the overall terrain, and really learning to tune in with it. Like Paula Pratt, who is teaching people about how to use ozone therapy, for example, she teaches about sit and slack. So when you take a remedy, you don't just off you go, you sit with it and you close your eyes and you scan your body and you see where it's going and what it's doing, what the intelligence of the body wants. Because the more you tune in and the more you listen, the greater your sensitivity becomes to yourself and your awareness grows. And it can only help you to know that and to have that information at hand. I mean, say you go out and there's some food and you're holding that, you pick up the food to eat it and you get a big fat no, you're like, oh, don't eat that. Okay, thank you. Right. It can really become your true protection. Or, you're going to step on that bus and you're like, something's telling me no, and you've learned to trust yourself, right? And that bus goes and gets in an accident and you bypass that. This is the type of thing that can happen. Your life can get easier and you're in the true flow of life, right? As you mentioned at the beginning about flow, where we were flowing in our conversation, but flowing in life, right? Where you're really listening to your higher self and you're in tune. And that's really joyous. That's really where that's an ideal place to be, where you're living with purpose and you're listening to your higher self and your intuition, and you're trusting your body and you're listening to your inner terrain, and you're making adjustments. And then you're for sure your own doctor at that point.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great advice. And the going slow is so important to remember. And I have been reminding myself too, because I'm still in that really new phase. So I'm like really excited. Like there's that excitement where I'm like, oh my God, I have to tell everyone this is just awesome, and then I remember it's like, well, it's not necessarily my job to tell everyone. I guess lead by example and do it. But remember that, if you tell someone, you have a responsibility with that, because you're not sure how they're going to perceive it or what they're going to take away or how they're going to apply it to their life. So trying to remind myself of remembering that these things need to be kind of prefaced as well. And going back to the Dhamma Tantra, the final verse in that is that Shiva basically tells his wife, hey, I've told you all the secrets of this, but now you must keep it a secret. So this is such a sacred thing that it's recommended to keep it to yourself. And so one of the things that Mario had said to me while I had a learning lesson with with how I'm perceiving Shivambu was that not to forget that this is bathroom behavior as well. So this is something that is awesome and wonderful and healing, but there is something so sacred about it that it should be looked at as such, and looked at and valued in that way, and not to just be cheers like a beer or something like that. It's not that's not what we're working with here, even though you might feel that way of wanting to show everyone that this is what's going on. And so something very special about that too, which just kind of goes back to even that alchemical symbol that we're looking at, where it's that center of keeping you calm and still in the moment, and not getting too overly, you know, excited about everything going on.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about your book and what the process has been like, because we're coming up close to an hour now. So I want to make sure that we talk more about that and what that looks like for you, and if you have an expected time frame when you think it may even be ready for the public.
Yeah, well, it's been slow going because there's been a lot of changes in my life and also my writing partner's life. And we're in, the heat of summer. There's a lot of activities going on. So really we're a few chapters in. We have our table of contents, we have our structure, we know what we have to do. We're just still shopping around for a publisher right now. I've got a few good options, have to decide. And once that goes through, so once the publishing is accepted, then you kind of write with the publisher. So it's the way we're writing now is kind of just we're doing our thing. And some authors will do that. They'll just write the whole book and then shop it around. But I like to usually work with the publisher because they will edit as you go. And it's helpful for this type of book because there's so many protocols, and because we're really doing it in a real practical, fun guide. We're making fun of it a little. We're trying to make it lighthearted. We're trying to, bring some humor in, but we're also getting right to here's protocols, like here's specific protocols you can do, because people are like, well, how do I do it for sinuses? How do I use it for my eyes? How do I use it for my teeth? How do I use it for my ears? How do I use it for all the things? And how do I use it for washing my clothes? How do I use it for cleaning my house? How do I use it for my hair? There's just all these different ways. How do I age it properly? Different ways of aging it, So these are all the technical things that we're going to be putting into the guide, and then once that process goes, it goes quite quickly. Just from my own experience with my first book, writing it on my own and doing all the setup was fine, but then once they get the document, it just starts to go really crazy. So maybe I don't know, I can't predict. I don't know, but it'll be done when it's done, and probably by the new year, I'd imagine, that kind of thing. Depending on, again, if we have to go through any lawyers or stuff. Hopefully not. I'm hoping disclaimers enough, because when lawyers get involved, they like to cut things out. And that happened in my last book. And I don't want some business suit telling me what I can and can't tell people about the medicine. So when I now go into the publishing, the offer, basically I'll say, like, here's my deal breakers. One of my deal breakers is you can't take anything out because you don't like it. Like, I'm going to talk about combinations in there too, how to use it with DMSO, how to use it with MMS, how to use it with different things. So I don't want somebody saying, oh, you can't say MMS, you can't talk about that, because that's what they were saying. You couldn't put things in different orifices. I couldn't tell them to go and talk about injecting urine. I mean, you can inject it under the skin. You can use it, in all these different ways. So I don't want to be told. I don't like being told what to do, So, but that's where things are. It's a good start. I feel confident with it, and once it's out, we'll probably do some more interviews and stuff. Probably with Mike as well. And yeah, it's exciting.
Man, that's super exciting. I'm so glad and not surprised to hear that it's going to be a practical guide, because that's what we really need. I mean, because it's one thing to be talking about all this stuff, but to be able to give people the protocols, just like in your DMSO book, Healing with DMSO, it's like, it's brilliant for so many reasons, but it's because you add those recipes. And that's something that is so valuable, and that's what people want, and that's what they need, because we do need to have more of that empowerment wave coming through what people are doing, instead of everybody, or these a lot of healers or people wanting people to be dependent on them. It's like, this is like the total opposite, which kind of goes along with what we were talking about too, of at least my intuition, that we're like heading back actually to older traditions, which was more independent, and you were relying more on your family and yourself and your community, and not always outsourcing everything. And if you didn't have that this year, if that didn't grow in the garden, well, I guess we just don't eat that. But maybe George down the street had it. Maybe the Voles didn't get it for him, or something like that. It was a little bit more, a lot more actually community oriented in a healthy way, and not this distorted version of community that I think gets spun around and put out into our atmosphere as well. And so, yeah, all these things are really wonderful. So I am excited for when it comes out as well. And one last aspect of slides, if I could, is a subject that was brought to my attention by a woman named Megan McDonald. I interviewed her about Shivambu about 3 months ago. And she called urine, or Shivambu, the hunter. And I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, it like blew my mind a little bit. And then again, it was one of those other aha moments, just like seeing the alchemical symbol or the other things that have come through recently for me, is just like, that is exactly what's happening. It's the hunter. It's hunting out within you the things that need to be healed, or the things that are needing mending, or the things that you maybe haven't been putting that attention on, that your body, your subconscious, your emotions, your heart has been telling you, hey, let's take a look here. And I feel like the urine really helps you to break through that. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on that sort of aspect of it, because to me, we brought in the arrow of Sagittarius because there's also some connections with Sagittarius being the centaur, being the hunter. That is also associated with the card of Temperance in the tarot, where she or he is pouring the two vessels, and that has to do with art and creation and all these beautiful things. So if you wanted to just maybe like wax poetic for just a few on the hunter aspect, I'd love to hear what you have to think, what you think about that.
Yeah, it's a very masculine approach, I would say. Because it's a one direction aspect, which it is. It definitely will seek and destroy, and it'll destroy disease, it'll destroy lies, it'll destroy deception, it'll destroy all kinds of, illusions and all kinds of things, right? It'll pierce through things. And what's interesting about the hunter aspect, it leads into, there's an intelligence, right? And we know that not only does water have the structure to it, but it also has its own innate language and intelligence. And so it can design things based on feedback, right? So maybe you're, okay, I'm going into this space, right? I've come into this space. Now I'm getting feedback and information, and then I'm making intelligent decisions based on the information that I'm getting back from my arrow, from going here and going here and going there. And I'm taking that into the structure and moving that forward. So if there's a relationship with the urine, it's not just take a pill, have something happen, the end. This is an intelligence here. And it sort of leads into, what are the elements, and are they intelligent, and what is intelligence? And, it really opens up the story into other kinds of understanding. And Veda Austin, a friend of mine, she's been doing her crystallography method with water. And she found that, for example, if you were to take this symbol and you were to put a petri dish of a thin amount of water over top of it, so it saw it, and then you freeze it until it just starts to crystallize, and you remove it, you will see that exact image in the water, right? And so it has a memory. It has memory, and it has also in that image, you could find other images that come up on repeat and repeat and repeat. And if you put all those together, she actually found there's an underlying language that water is speaking in addition to its memory capacity, which insinuates that there is a higher order intelligence involved here. As well, there is a liberty of creativity of the artwork that is presented. So if it was shown this image, for example, it might not take it verbatim. It might add a little flair to it, or it might add something, embellish it in another way with its own idea of the symbol, right? Taking you to another layer of thinking about it, right? Ever inviting you into a deeper consciousness about it. And so that's what, that this reminds me of, is this type of intelligence that's there, because a hunter has to be a sharpshooter. A hunter has to see, where they're going, and also get feedback about their environment. That's really cool. I really love these symbols.
Yeah, I really love your perspective, which is why I wanted to pull them in. And I felt the timing was pretty divine. Just the fact that we just did this presentation last Wednesday. And I'm like, I know I'm going to bring some of these slides in because I just would love to hear what you had to say. And yeah, it makes me also think about confidence because, obviously when if you've ever shot, and anyone who's shot any weapon, but specifically a bow and arrow, it's like you need to be confident in that aim, and you need to be present in that moment before you release that bow so that you can have a clear mind and like a clear heart. And there is, I can't remember the practice of the bow and arrow art, but it's something about like, it's not a keto. That's like different. Anyway, I'm
like
not even
archery.
Yeah, it's something within archery. It is either I think it might be an ancient Chinese practice. Mario showed it to me years ago, but it's basically like the art of being able to shoot the bulls, like hit the bullseye. And if you're not able to hit the bullseye, you actually aren't like spiritually grounded and sound enough. And like these people who are practicing this art, it is just like they're able to do a spin and then pull the bow, release, and get the bullseye every single time. And there's just something about the meditative practice that comes with it. And so anyway, it's a whole thing, but I'm not going to even act like I know all the details, but it just reminds me of that confidence that comes when you are so just, in tune with your weapon or your practice or your gift or whatever that is. And so I feel like the urine or the Shivambu, whatever you like to call it, it helps you to find that confidence. It really, really, truly does. And that's what I'm finding about it with myself, of like, it's helping me to be more honest with myself. It's helping me just to like feel more self-acceptance on things that I have struggled with my whole life, particularly like body image things and feeling like, oh, I could be a little thinner, or I could be a little this or that or whatever. And it's like, well, how much of this is you being hard on yourself? Where's healthy? Where's your body type? What are you, I've just been able to accept things more, not avoiding things that I might have to change, but accepting the things about myself that I've struggled with, or where my insecurities have really lied. I've really been digging into that side of myself, which is a beautiful thing, but it's painful at the same time, but that's where the goodness comes. So yeah. I really find that it's just a beautiful practice. And for those who feel called to it, I say go for it and take it slow, as you were saying. And it could be a beautiful thing for everybody, as we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah. And once you get over the stigma, I mean, people who don't know about it will say the same things, like they'll say the same things when I introduce them to coffee enemas, right? Oh, do you take cream and sugar with that? Like everybody says the same things. Like, it's like, ew, gross. Everyone says, ew, ew, that's the first reaction. And that's totally normal. I mean, I did it. Everyone does it. It's okay. It's cool. Like, do it. Just do it. Just know that's normal. And then get over it and go, okay, that's my conditioning. Cool. But now I'm going to collect some and really think about what what are my negative associations with this? Well, like subway bathrooms or, it's just old urine stinks like ammonia because it actually produces ammonia, which is why it's a great cleaner. But this is like blood plasma filtered. This is nourishment. And it is a like $1 billion industry to collect your urine and use it to create pharmaceutical drugs, to create skincare lines. Like people don't even realize they're taking horse urine to use in skincare for women. Like why? Ew. Like wouldn't you want that's ew. Like use your own.
Right.
Then you're right. Then it's your own waters. It's your own holy water. It knows you. And that intelligence can work with you. Why get this subpar stuff that you don't know what people are doing with it, right? So once you kind of understand that part, you get over the stigma, And then the first thing I did, the first time I really reintroduced myself to it, this was after the scabies stuff. I was like, I just took a little and rubbed it on my skin. I just rubbed it on my skin. Like, okay, that's fine. I'm like, oh, it feels kind of conditioning. It feels almost oily, but there's no oils. It's interesting. It has this slip to it. I was like, oh, that's fascinating. So I just as a curious child, right? Oh, what is this? Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, and start collecting your urine just to even notice it. What does it smell like? You don't have to put your nose in it. You can do this. Like when we're in lab, this is how you smell something. You don't put your nose in, right? Get an idea of the smell. What did you eat yesterday? And what does it look like? Are you hydrated? Are you dehydrated? How concentrated is it? Are there any particulates in it? Are there any tissue pieces? Are there anything floating around? Like just start to get familiar with what it looks like, even before you drink it. Just start a relationship, right? And then you can begin to even age that urine. You don't even have to drink at that point. Just put it in I have like a big gallon. I have a lot of urine. Okay. Just big 4-gallon or 4-liter thing, big gallon, and just store it because it'll turn into ammonia and you can use it for your cleaning later. So no problem, right? Or you can use it as age stuff later. But then after that, then, on a good day when you feel like you can do it and maybe the smell isn't so pungent and it's like a nice straw color, it's not too concentrated, you were a good girl, you drank enough water, you did well, then just take a few drops or just put your finger in it and just put it on your lip and just taste it. That's it. Just start there. And like once you have broken the seal, you're in. You drank your urine. You did, and you can never not go back. You're forever a pee drinker. So it becomes easier because you're like, well, I'm already there, so whatever. And then each day, just add a few drops into some juice. Or if you really want to just taste it, do it that way. Some people are still not comfortable. So if you aren't, just start putting it into a little bit of orange juice in the morning and drink it, and then work up slowly. And then the goal is around 2 ounces of first morning capture, either straight, you just take it right from the tap, or, sometimes I'll cool it off in the fridge, say I got stuff I got to do or whatever. I'll just put it in the fridge for a little while, top it up with a little orange juice and down the hatch. Sometimes I put it in my smoothies. I change it up. It depends on how I feel. Like sometimes I'm not feeling if I get a bit of nausea, if I like when my cycle changes over, right, it might feel a little different. I might be sensitive to smells. So I do want to put it in juice. But other times I'm like, who cares? So what you're doing is you're creating a relationship and learning about yourself through this relationship development, and then how you feel, and then note how your dreams change. How does your sleep change? How do your moods change? Keep a little diary, keep a little health journal, and just, write things down. Like first day, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. I cannot tell anyone. They will think I'm this and that. Whatever comes up, doesn't matter, right? And then later, be like, this is incredible. My gray hair went away. My, this weird growth on my face I've had for whatever years is gone. Or, all of your successes, start to write them down. And then your confidence will build. As you said, your confidence in yourself will build naturally. And all of those blockages and all of those, that heaviness that we carry can clear. And then at some point you might see someone who's really suffering and you really feel for them, you feel compassion for them, and you want to tell them, and you want to say, look, I know that how this might come across, but I've been experiencing it this way for this long. I've been documenting it. And here's how it's helped me, right? Here's what it's done for me. You don't have to tell them what to do. You don't have to dictate to them. Just look at have you noticed anything in me lately? Have you noticed like my skin better? Or you notice my teeth are whiter because I'm gargling with it? Or, have you noticed anything? They might notice. And then say, yeah, it's because I'm doing this practice. And that might get some curiosity for them, because it can really help a lot of people if they can get past the stigma. But doing it in that way gives you that what is it? The fortitude, right? So when you speak, it's not just, oh, you should do it. Like, no, you're doing it from experience and knowledge and feedback. And they will consider it a little more seriously rather than just the first response, which is, ew, gross. I'm not doing that. What are you going to eat your poo too? Like, they do these kinds of things, right? They'll say all the same things. It's the ego. It's nothing new. The ego is boring. The ego is predictable, right? It's the same stuff where we're going, yeah, I know. And you don't have to take any offense. It's just, you did it too. It's okay. Right. So I just find that that's the best way to really start and to progress, so that, you still have your friends.
Yeah, no, definitely. And your friends, who knows, they may be appalled at first, but they might gain deeper respect for you, just by you telling them that. And I feel like that's even kind of one of the things we've noticed, that as we were a little more vocal. I mean, honestly, it's like a coming out moment. That's what it felt like. We told Mario's sister and brother-in-law were here, and it was like, we sat down after we ate breakfast and was like, so guys, like, we have something to tell you. It was like crazy, because we felt compelled to tell them. And as we told them, of course, the first initial thing was that, they're repelled. But then once we were just talking about it, and his sister, by the end of the conversation, is like, well, I would be willing to try it on my skin. And it was just like, that's all it took. It was a 15-minute conversation of us being compassionate about it and being like, it's going to sound crazy. We're always doing weird shit already, but like, guess what? It's getting weirder, I guess. So anyway, it's incredible. And I'm honored to have been able to talk with you about it, because as I said in the beginning, you've been one of the people that I've thought in my mind as I've taken this role on, as choosing to interview people and host people on the internets. You have been one that I have really wanted to dig into with this one, because it's just very fascinating. I respect what you're doing. I respect your opinion and all that you put out there. So as always, thank you for your time. And if you want to let people again know where they can find you, if they weren't listening already, I'll also have, all the links to your work in the show notes and stuff. But please, the floor is yours, my lady. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Michelle. This is great. I love coming on and talking about these things, and, sharing the knowledge. And, we have a lot of work to do in this realm. And these are solutions that are literally free. This is literally free medicine. There's not one thing you have to purchase to do this. And that's what's really, I think, very freeing about it, because even the medicines that we do have that aren't expensive, it still costs, and people are struggling right now. And there's a lot of suffering going on. So just to understand the power of this medicine that you make with your own body is so uplifting, and it is filled with so much potential and hope and promise that, we really need that right now. So I appreciate, the forum here to express that to people and to encourage people to, push past their limitations and trust themselves and listen to that wisdom and start applying it in their lives, just as an experiment, see what happens, and then go from there, right? Because we all did that, and look where we're at. Look how excited we are. Look at what we've learned and how we've grown. And I mean, I'm going to be 50 years old next week. And I've never had I've had better skin now than when I was in my 20s. So, it can really change the way that you view life. And we really need the change makers right now. So you can find all my socials and everything. If you just go to yummy.doctor, click on public videos, go to any video, and just go in the drop down of the description. And, almost all my socials are there in the list. I'm getting, I'm quite active on Substack. I've been taking a bit of a break the last little while just to recuperate, but That's where, you can get my podcast. You can get it as a membership, on yummy.doctor. The top 2 tiers have more access to me and Q&As and this sort of thing. So that's really that's added value for sure for what you get. And, let's build a community together. Let's connect. Let's, keep the conversation going. Instead of just mindlessly scrolling on the internet or watching Netflix all night, we got work to do, right? So this is what this community is here for. And we're going to keep growing that. And who knows, at some point, it might even be a physical community, because where it's headed, we're going to be pushed out of the existing society one way or another, which I'm totally fine with. But that means we need our own structure and things to do for ourselves. And so there's a lot of building to do, a lot of creativity happening, and I'm here for it. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Beautiful as always. And to everyone out there, thanks for hanging out with us. And I hope you guys took something away and got inspired just as I have been from the conversation. So until next time, take care out there.